Hello there, Toufic.
Hi. So
Nice to see you.
thank you for taking the time to do this with us. So as we were speaking offline, I'll just let you tell the world who you are and what is it basically that you do.
What I'm doing is creating a network of projects, places, and people called Nomadic Unity Hub.
Okay.
And this network aims to show how we transform an old house in rural Bulgaria, close to Sofia, my grandparents' house actually, how we transform it into a co-working and co-living space, or otherwise said, we are turning it into a social hub for startups, digital nomads, and freelancers. Why we are doing it? Because we want to solve the problem with the abandoned villages in Bulgaria. Okay. And on the other hand, because a lot of people, young people between their 20s and 40s, are already looking forward into living in the rural areas in general, in the whole world, I think, not only in Bulgaria. So a lot of them are still like asking how we're gonna do it, how we're gonna get our salaries that we are used to get in the big cities. So by transforming this house, we are actually creating a know-how of how this house, a rural house, could actually make a profit for you. Okay. On one hand, okay. And on the other hand, to enjoy yourself being in more nature environment. Like when I'm working today for 2 hours on my laptop, I could see the mountain, I could eat like a natural food, etc. So we started with the first location, Zelin House. Okay. But the major picture is, our major aim is to create a network of houses so we could inspire the people who have houses to maintain them by providing the know-how we are creating, or to get investors who will be building a whole village. Actually, our next step is creating a whole global village. A global village. Okay, and Zelen House is Zelen from green, right? Right, exactly. Okay, so that's so the greenhouse. So basically, if I understood correctly, you want to help people shifting from the rushy, stressful city environment into a more natural, connected with nature, more eco-friendly, healthy, and more developing for the areas that seem to be abandoned, right? Exactly. Okay. That's very nice. And when did you guys start this project? But at the beginning, I have to say I was by myself. So I started in 2017. All right. And then in 2018, we already started working on the house regarding construction, developing the network. So it's really important that the first year, actually, before we settled in the house, I was making a lot of like network throughout different business companies, NGOs. So it was quite vital first to build the community and then working on the house physically. Of course. So, okay, so, and now you're based in Plovdiv, right? Not in Plovdiv. The house is close. It's 50 kilometers away from Sofia, west. Okay. Close to the nearest town is Botevgrad. This is my hometown. Botevgrad. Okay. So it's in your hometown. Okay. Yeah, my mom lives there in Plovdiv. Nice. Yes. So I think it's because the first year throughout my research, when I was meeting people throughout Bulgaria and outside, having those houses, like developing cultural events or something similar like what we do, I found out that it's quite essential and vital to start with a region that is really close to a big city, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to build a community. Absolutely. So I had this house that is 50 kilometers away from our capital, Sofia, and we started from here. That's very nice. That's very, very nice. I'm seeing this being developed in some other areas, and that's I think now with the let's touch base a little bit on what the effect of COVID-19 could be, but I think it could be in some way maybe positive. Is that working from home and dislocating from the companies and big buildings, maybe something that could actually drive some business towards you, where people now are basically thinking about their next move. So Exactly. I think before even this whole situation with the COVID-19, I think the tendencies were anyways about shifting. I mean,
Yes,
businesses and people and
yes,
structures,
yes.
because if we have to talk not only about startups
Mm.
and entrepreneurs who are independent,
Yeah.
even the big corps started already implementing those policies to
Absolutely.
provide for their workers more natural environment. So, so now with this mm, virus situation,
Yeah.
I think it's more vital for people to transform their consciousness and
Okay.
mentality and flexibility.
Okay.
So I see it in a positive way, to be honest, because before this situation, a lot of people were rushing in the big cities, having no time for themselves,
Yeah.
making money. And now this situation forced people to look deeper into themselves,
Yeah.
deeper into their relationships,
Yeah.
considering where they are standing right now, who they are. Is that what they're doing, the thing for them, the right thing for them, their relations, regardless business orientated or
Of course.
personal? Because when we're talking about entrepreneurship and businesses, I think I was talking about it like 2 years or 3 years ago, and now it's even more important to all of us to talk about is that before talking about businesses, we have to talk about our personal strengths and
Absolutely.
weaknesses as human beings, and then we could transfer into the topic of business, because a lot of people are doing businesses and money. Okay, that's something really important for us in this material world, but before that it's quite vital for me to get to know ourselves better.
Okay, so indeed, because what you're touching on is a lot of the unhappiness that exists in entrepreneur
Yeah,
land. Is we're chasing
yeah,
something that doesn't make us happy, and I think now people will realize on saying, "Hey, instead of getting paid $50,000 a year, I'm getting paid $30,000 a year because I'm on a part time, but I'm happier, right?" And
yeah,
so people might embrace this. So what you said was very meaningful in the sense. I think you mentioned when we met that you were a flight attendant or you were working in
yeah,
airlines or
yeah,
something. So I
yeah,
guess, can you touch a bit on the world that you've seen? Because I think that's valuable. Nobody flies more than you.
yeah,
Well,
true.
maybe me, but I think I can argue with the fact that you've seen more of the normal person of the world. So
Yeah, but actually, the project became familiar here in Bulgaria for the media and
yeah.
people, different people, because uh, they find interesting the path that I was changing throughout my career and development.
Okay.
So I started as a lawyer, I was working in, and then I could see that I cannot thrive in this kind of environment. So then I became a flight attendant.
Okay.
So it's really interesting to see when you're visiting different parts of the world that actually we are all the same, and all these cultures, religions, habits, actually they're creating a diversity of beauty, I would say.
Mm.
So more than ever with this situation, I could apply this, how to say it, consciousness and beauty of communicating with
Okay.
different people. So it's really important. I think this experience gave me a lot of vast, I don't know, insights of like people in general. So I found out that we are all the same and we're coming all from the same place.
Okay.
And now it's really important that I think it's been for a while now that people realize that we have to live in communities, we have to
Mm.
communicate, we have to
Mm.
unite.
Mm.
So so it was one of the most major and significant experiences that I've ever had.
Of course, of course. I don't know if you feel the same. Every time I travel and I see something new, I feel smaller. I'm like, come
Yeah,
on,
true.
you feel, you just say to yourself, okay, then you think you're big, you think you know things, and you think you're doing something,
Yeah.
and then you go travel to a different culture and you see a 5-year-old kid that could teach you a life lesson.
Yeah, exactly. I
You
think
know,
like these are the, by the way, like the new kids are coming. Of course, this is part of the evolution
absolutely,
process. So I'm really
absolutely.
happy when I meet Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So how does this COVID curfew and basically the world, because not every country is responding the same way. I think in Bulgaria it's a little bit more relaxed than other countries where
yeah.
they're shutting down everything. Because I think also it's the density of the population. Bulgaria is a vast country with 6 million people, so it's not very, and the population is declining. So compared to other countries where the population is booming, I mean, New York City is 12 million people. You know, like Paris and the region around it is maybe 8 to 10 million people. So that's something that, so how does it affect you on a daily basis and what you're doing?
Uh, on a daily basis, I have to say personally that the only difference that I'm experiencing right now is that I cannot meet people regarding like the project or having fun. But at the same time, I don't see it. I don't find such a difference comparing to my before the virus, right? Because what I'm doing in general in my life and with my life is working on my laptop, working as a lean house, doing the garden, inviting people, creating events. So right now we cannot do just the events, but in general, what I'm doing, I'm communicating and I'm enjoying my time with my family, with my parents, with my friends. We still can do it at the lean house, of course, but I'm really glad because now I have even more time for reading books, for finding information
Behind me
about
here on
life.
the, I don't know if I'm,
Yeah, I've
I
noticed.
read all of them at least 10 times now.
Very good. So there's one of the good sides of this situation. Yeah. So now regarding Bulgaria, as you mentioned correctly, I think the situation is more relaxed. But in general, this is one of the reasons that I came back home actually after I was traveling the world.
All right.
Because I realized that here we have quite a natural environment, and as a country, compared to the global situation, economics, let's say, it's really good that we're like in the middle. That means we are not at the bottom considering poverty, economics, and at the same time we are not at the top like the world strong economics and stuff. So that helps us and saves us, I think. And now regarding with this situation, I think like a lot of people got scared, like in general. But I think like, of course, I think the fear is not the best tool to use right now in those kind of situations. So globally, of course, the world is shifting. I mean, regarding the economy, and I think that we have to be really, really thoughtful and attentive to see the bigger picture behind the scene with the virus, because the life won't stop. And now we have to think really carefully what stands behind the virus regarding the economic and the life as humankind. Because when we're talking about consciousness and developing ourselves as human beings, that means we have to vast our perspective of material world and economy in general. So we have to really think about what stands behind this virus.
Absolutely.
And to look for more information from coming out from alternative sources of information. There are people, books, different channels in social media. So I think it's not a really good idea to focus on what they're broadcasting us on TVs only.
Well, that's very true, because indeed what I was arguing about with some friends is that this virus, everybody's now trying to compare it to something. Like if you scroll on your Facebook, even in Sofia here, even in Bulgaria, at a smaller level than other countries, of course, because it's a smaller country and it's a smaller economy than other countries. Everybody's like trying to compare it to something. Okay, so this looks like 1987 when the crash of this. Oh no, this looks like 2008 because and I'm like, no, guys, it doesn't look like anything we've seen in our generation. This looks like, the most it looks like to me is the 1930s. So in 1929 you had the crash. In 1014 you had the World War, right? So 1419, sorry, you had the World War I, right? Then after wars, what happens? Well, we rebuild logically. Then we rebuilt and industrialization and everything. And then in 1920, you had the 20s where there was a little bit of advancement in industries and in something, because that's also something that wars bring, right? Pushing the industries and pushing things. And then 1929, the crash of Wall Street. And then between 29 and 32, if you compare what the governments were doing to that period, they're doing exactly the same thing, pouring money, printing money. And then afterwards in the 30s, we had a run of industrialization, a run of economy and everything, but it made a very big social gap between people. So the rich got richer, the poor got poorer. And then there was a rise of nationalism, there was a rise of injustice, those kind of things. And then people went back to communities. And that's how, for example, people like Hitler found the echo. That's how communism was developed in Soviet Union, right? So what scares me the most is that now we see those patterns. We see that in Europe, for example, you have some companies and even some countries that are considering opting out. You have countries that are shutting borders. You have countries imposing quotas. Now, for the first time, you hear consume French, consume Italian, consume Spanish. You know, don't buy the British tomato, don't buy the Bulgarian cucumber. You see what I mean? And so that's the scary thing. And what you're saying is exactly into this, is like, it's the responsibility of people to realize that it's not just the material thing that you're chasing, is a purpose in life. What is your identity and what would be the purpose? Right?
Exactly. Now, when you mention these historical events, I have to agree that there is a repetitive cycle of. But when you were mentioning the World War I, I have to. I don't know. Most probably you've heard about George Orwell and his book. 1984. I think it's quite interesting to find how this guy described this kind of situation right now in his book. So I would recommend everyone who's listening to us to check out on this book.
Repeat the name of the book. George Orwell's.
George Orwell is the author. The name of the book is 1984.
1984, because people know George Orwell by the farm, the animals of the farm, but he has written other books that are interesting, and I happen to have read 1984, and what you're describing is amazing. It's really that.
It's quite related to what we're all experiencing right now. Now, what I wanted to say something, but that you mentioned regarding what you mentioned, but I think I forgot. But in general, the global. I think when you ask me about my perspective on the situation and the virus, I don't want to be a bad prophet or something, but I think we have to be mindful about the military situations that the governments are applying everywhere. So that means that would have a huge impact on the open borders that we have known so far. I mean, traveling around the world, shifting. Today I'm in Australia, tomorrow I'm in Lebanon or whatever. Now I think this path is changing. So regarding our business, like in social and entrepreneurship project we're developing, I think one of the major impacts that this situation will have is going to be on the travel industry and the tourism industry.
Absolutely.
So it's really important for the local communities to get united as well, because at some point, if the people are not free to cross borders and to travel freely, that means that we have to be turned back into local communities and on a national level. Which means, like, again, that the flexibility is one of the major key factors that we have to start practicing. So
for what you're saying, honestly, I think it could have multiple impacts. I think the impact, I think humans intrinsically want to change, but I think but I think nobody starts the change. So we want to do that, but we want. I will see what you're exactly describing, and very thoughtfully, I believe it 100%. I believe it will happen, but I think it will start happening when humans will accept that you don't need an iPhone every year. You need one maybe every 2 years.
Um,
You don't need that's what I mean. You don't need a new model of iPads every 6 months. You don't need 50,000 colors of cars.
Exactly.
Right? You don't need so you don't need to have an unlimited amount of designs of clothes by big companies, and you don't need to kill animals. So I think the change will come to what you see when I see these patterns in society happen. But as long as I'm living for now, I see that people, the more we are deprived, the more we consume. And that's a problem, because now I'm more worried about when people go out to the world, what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's exactly. This is what I said at the beginning, that this kind of situation is really beautiful because force people to think outside their boxes that they're used to.
But then we have to see what this translates into, right? I think that's what's scary, is like, now that everybody has thought, we have to see what that's translated into. And I think one of the things that taxpayers, I don't say citizens as much as I say taxpayers, because a citizen is somebody that believes in things, but a taxpayer is somebody that has a say and that votes, and basically that's what defines society, is the taxpayers. The votes are made by taxpayers. And what I mean by taxpayers, if you raise my taxes, I don't vote for you. If you lower my taxes, I vote for you. So that's why I say it's paid by taxpayers. So I think everybody now understands that's, listen, it's amazing to see that the people that are running the society right now and keeping us alive, all of us, are the less paid people. Are the less paid people. Like the people that you see on the street right now, whether it's the cashier, whether it's the policeman, whether it's the nurse, whether the doctor, these are the people that usually society pays the less.
True.
And all the bankers, financial people, developers, whatever you want to call it, and I'm just saying they're paid much more. Great for them. I'm not criticizing. I'm one of them. I'm one of the people that gets to sit on my couch and be paid a little bit more than the average person, so that I can survive. But what I'm saying is that we need to rethink maybe our society as well. No, I mean, it's
that's for sure. That's for sure. I think the system is shifting now. I mean, meaning when we're talking about developing our consciousness, and I would say our spiritual side, because I wanted to use this word at the beginning, but because a lot of people are avoiding it, but we have to say this is kind of a spiritual development, what we're experiencing right now. So a lot of people, I think, even before the virus crisis, started already thinking about, is the job that they're having in the big corps is enough for only surviving? Because I don't think the whole point of being here in this life is to survive. I think it's to enjoy ourselves, our lives, regarding like economy and the system of economy, I think it's shifting, and we will be facing, that's only the beginning, I would say, with this virus. So as we were mentioning, that in a way the people who are living in the big cities, living there, are experiencing human crisis, I would say, right now, not only business crisis, but human. I think at some point, most of us became helpless living in the big cities, meaning if tomorrow we face some world event, that the shops are closed, you cannot buy food from everywhere, you cannot go to work from 9 to 5 in the big corps, you don't have your office. That means that, again, you have to be returned into your natural environment. Natural environment means in the nature, where you have to start growing your vegetables, your food, where you have to build your house, and then, you know, a lot of people would be really, really, really challenged, I'm afraid.
I think, well, it's funny you say that, because I spoke to my father about 2 weeks ago, about all of this. And I told him, how are you doing? Because he's in the age, he's 70 now, approximately. And so he's in the age of, if he contracts the virus, he's in terrible shapes. And so he's at the risk age. So even if he contracts it, I think he'll be fine, but because he's a pretty healthy man. But in any case, I was talking to him about this, and he said, listen, man, I think it's going to be harder for you guys that are used to buy your own coffee every morning before you go to work, because I wake up, I make my own coffee, and I go in my garden and I take care of my oranges and my lemons, you know, and I'm planting 50 new avocado trees for the next season. So I think it's going to be harder for the people who developed habits that they cannot get out of, right? And so it's harder for those people than for the people who wakes up and does the same thing every day. And he's like, okay, but okay, again, he has to sell his vegetables, but as long as people have to eat, I think he will sell his vegetables. So I think there's an equilibrium that is coming back. People are realizing they cannot eat dollars. They cannot, they cannot eat toilet paper. I mean, what is up with that? I saw people like, I'm saying to anybody that's listening, if you're buying toilet paper in a crisis, it means you haven't been in a crisis long enough for you to understand what the crisis is. You have no idea about what a crisis is. You're spoiled. You're a spoiled person that doesn't know what the crisis is if you're buying toilet paper in a crisis.
You know, you're really kind when you're using the word spoiled. I would say and emphasize on that against helpless. That means you're helpless. Because when we're talking about habits, I have to ask now, who is building your own personal habits? Who is building my personal habits? Absolutely. Is it the government? Is it my boss? Is it who is building your habits? And where are you when you have to decide which habits you want to implement and to choose pick up for yourself?
Absolutely. So at some point you're accountable. That's what you're saying. At some point we are all accountable. It's not the government that prevents you from waking up at 6:30 and go run for half an hour if you need to lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all up to you. So at the end of the day, if you're complaining about whatever, usually when I'm having this kind of conversations with people randomly that I meet, and they're complaining, and I'm asking them, so what steps you've already taken so you could solve the problem you're sharing with me right now? When I hear the answer, I don't know, or
I'll check about it later, or maybe later.
So this is, I'm reaching that point that I'm ending these conversations, because my point is, it's about time to start setting personal examples, giving personal examples. So when we want to change something, it's about us to show how it's supposed to be.
You see it everywhere, and we cannot, I mean, I have a lot of empathy for people that are in the situation where they think they're stuck, and it's not my fault, and it isn't their fault, you know, like for example, the nurses and the doctors, part of the nurses and the doctors are risking their lives to do this, but there's a decent amount of other part that decided, okay, listen, I'm going to resign, and I don't want to do this because if I get because the government is not helping me, and if I get this, okay, so maybe you're not a nurse in wartime. Maybe when there's peace, you can go back to being a nurse, but you're not a wartime nurse. Because if you're a wartime nurse and you're afraid for your life, then you're not a wartime nurse, and that's fine. What I have a problem with, if you want, is the wartime nurse that does her job correctly, and then the peacetime nurse that says, oh, I'm a nurse and you should know. Listen, at some point, one of you under crisis is making a choice. And so she chose to help and you chose not to help. Good for you, go to your family, but you cannot be asked to be glorified or treated like the person who actually chose to do the job. So I think in all fairness as you said, self-awareness is something important. You just have to know who you are and what you are, right? First, before you can do anything. I mean, I often argue with friends. It's like, listen, you can't make the only person you're going to wake up in front of every day for the rest of their life, if this guaranteed, no questions asked, is the person you see in the mirror every day. That's it. Exactly. Everybody else is dispensable. Not that you want to lose them, but you will lose them. Either death, either accidents, either divorce, whatever it is, everybody else can disappear. The only person that's not going to disappear, as long as you're mentally healthy, is the person you see in the mirror. So if you cannot live with that person and accept that person and have a conversation with that person and change that person,
Exactly. I have to say something funny about here. My father used to tell me this, like when I was a kid, or like even when I was older, and I was talking to myself, and he could hear me, and he was asking, "Who are you talking with?" And I was saying with myself, and he was telling me, "Oh, so you like to speak with intelligent people?" So that means that it's like a lot of people are making fun out of it when you're talking by yourself, but actually that's a good thing. So I encourage more and more people to start talking to themselves first.
Now is the decisions. Now I think now is the decisions. People should make their decisions now and audit their relationships, audit their work, audit their meaningful relationships. If because now I'm counting on the kids. For example, I see it on YouTube. I see it on YouTube a lot. A lot of kids that are very happy that their parents are at home and they're cooking and stuff like this.
Exactly.
And so when you go back to work and your kids are gonna say, "Hey, when are we going to cook again? We're gonna play again," and they're gonna demand this time, it will force you to maintain the habits that you created. And I think people will develop meaningful relationships. I'm not talking about people. Everybody has a problem. There are a lot of people that are dealing with serious things, being homeless, losing jobs, whatever. I'm not. I mean, but this was existing even before COVID-19. This exists at any crisis. I mean, go tell the Syrian refugee that COVID-19 is a problem. No, it's not his problem. It's been a problem for him since 2011, right? So I'm just trying to paint a picture for people to say, listen, you can try to take control, and I think good things can come when you try to take control.
Now, when you're mentioning the situations before this crisis, I want to touch on something that, again, all of us, we have to be aware of. And this is, again, the global economy, the situation that it used to be before this virus crisis. Because before this crisis enters our lives, I think the world economy was really wasn't stable at all. In different countries, like again here, there were some discussions in Bulgaria, for instance, to applying the euro as a currency, because we are still having our national. I'm giving just an example, but it goes like this everywhere in the world in different matters. So now with this crisis, I think it's quite, how to say it, comfortable in a way to excuse all the economic, shift that we used to have. So we have to be vigilant about that.
Absolutely. Now liberties will be suppressed. You remember after 9/11? After 9/11, you could take a bottle on the airplane. Now you cannot. So I think a lot of things will change. Some freedoms will be suppressed.
So it's really convenient for some certain circles that are ruling, and setting the economy rules, like in the whole world. I mean, to get advantage, of this situation. So we have to be really vigilant in those times.
I think we can be that if we become citizens, if we become people that are a little bit more aware, if we get informed in a better way.
Exactly.
And that's for me the purpose. Even the purpose of this talk for me is basically to take people like you that are. We're not giving answers. We're just telling people, ask the right questions. Right? We're not saying we're right. We're saying ask the right question. Right. Ask the right question and find the person who asked you want to ask the question to. Like today, the media is only there's news anchors and marketing experts and CEOs of big companies that are becoming experts on virus. No, man, put the damn doctor in front of me. I don't want to talk to a marketing manager in some company about the dangers of the virus. I want to talk to a specialist, right? And so we're not being informed about things by the people who are supposed to inform us, and we're not being, because we're not used to ask the right questions. Okay, so something happened today, okay, and then you flip, and then it's like fast, and then you forget everything, and then you see a cat, and then and then you see a baby, and then again war in Syria, riots in Hong Kong, and then another cat, and so you're being exposed to a lot of information that you don't have time to process it, and so
I think in a way you're bombarded with information that is not like giving you anything valuable, I think. Absolutely. So it's time to start searching, investigating.
Absolutely.
And Yeah, I think, and plus, again, I have to touch on that we have to know that at the end of the day, we are individuals, okay, but we're part of the society, of the socium,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's really important to stay together with the community that we think we fit in.
Mm,
Uh, um, Regarding our different kind of interests, right? Businesses
mm,
or
yeah.
whatever. So I have to say, like even in Bulgaria, I don't know if you've heard about BESCO. It's an organization about entrepreneurs and startups. It's a new
Yes, I
organization.
think I received some emails from them from time to time. Yeah.
Okay, because they invited me, and since last year I became like a member.
Nice.
Because
Bravo. Congrats.
most of us that we are developing different social businesses or startups at the different levels, scale levels, now we are uniting and we're trying to use our unity as a bridge to implement the policies that we believe in.
Yeah.
So again, it's really important the people to, again, I'm emphasizing on that, but
I think
we
I
have to know that.
I think companies will realize, and startups especially will realize that now they have to learn how to run a business,
Yeah,
and that investors, whoever they are, is like to me. I think that's just a forecast, just my opinion. I'm sure that a lot of people will go and treat me like an idiot in the comments, but I believe, and maybe I'm right and maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm right, it could be bad news for a lot of people,
yeah,
because I think until now it was like, hey, I have an idea and I need $1 million to test it. Now it's gonna be, okay, show me you can make $10,000 with your idea, and then I'll give you 100,000 to scale to 1 million. And so
exactly.
I think investors are gonna look more into stable companies to invest in. The second, I think investors are gonna want to invest in companies that actually make a difference
True.
in societies. I think that's a forecast, and I hope it's what it is, because for example, are we going to finance a company that is going to, for example, like yours, the Unity Hub? I think it's amazing because it will ensure retirement. If every person that owns a house of above 200 square meters outside a city can rent the garage to the Unity Hub, and you can create a small ecosystem,
Yeah,
and this can pay rent to the two
yeah,
retired people that are
yeah,
living in this house, and they will have people around them that will take care of the house, that will cultivate potatoes, tomatoes, whatever it is, and that ensures some kind of stability for them. I think that's a very viable business, right? So even on a business side, because you have to think of the economy behind
yeah,
it also. Nothing
yeah,
comes. We live in a materialistic world,
yeah,
but that's what it is. And so yeah, what you're touching on is very interesting, because I think coronavirus is not the change, it's the catalyst. I think everybody was, as you said, everybody was thinking about those things, but
mm,
coronavirus and came and gave the excuse.
yeah.
So a lot
Yeah,
of
it
people,
just
yeah,
sorry. Mm.
go ahead.
It just, as I said, forced a lot of people to start thinking for
Yeah,
themselves, like
yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people will lose their jobs because they had no choice, but a lot of people will go see their boss and say, okay, I'm out.
yeah, exactly.
You see what I
And
mean? And I think now maybe they're waiting because it's uncertainty. But if they don't quit now, they might quit in 6 months. They might quit in a year. And I
mm,
think companies and people will remember. I think people will remember how companies treated with coronavirus. I mean, the companies that fired people, even on marketing side, like if let's say if a company X decides to fire all the people, and company Y is offering the same service but decided to keep all the people, and the CEO decided to save all the salaries and everything, I think the common sense of consumer marketing will go, hey, I'm gonna go to this company that believes in human values and the values that I believe in. And these capitalist guys that fire people and treat people like numbers, I don't want to be with them. And that's what happened with banks. I mean, bankers have been hated after 2008, right? And
mm,
so the banking system has never took a marketing heat more than. So I used to hear it. Like I used to hear people saying after 2008, 2009, oh, so you want to be a banker? Yeah. Okay, so you want to be a crook? You want to take our money? So no, man. It's like, but that's what it conveyed. So now I think big corporations are gonna have to reevaluate all those things, especially also with airlines that proposed, even airlines that proposed to delay your flights and everything, okay, but also that airlines that laid off a lot of people will be remembered as the airlines that so
So exactly, like and this is what I was emphasizing on. Like, it's really beautiful,
Yeah.
the impact that we're having in different industries and lifestyle. So I
You're
think
about the only person that says that today. That's refreshing. You're the only person that says that what we're experiencing is actually positive and beautiful. That's refreshing. That's really refreshing.
yeah, thank you. I do believe in that into the core of my existence. I have to
Yeah.
say it. And I think so. Actually, that's why today I put this T-shirt today.
Ah,
That
what does it say?
yeah,
The future is?
it, the future is exciting.
Uh-huh.
So we, all of us, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So the thing is, no matter what we are giving as a forecast today regarding the economy, our lifestyles, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think a lot of people are actually really scared because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But you know, this is life. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I'm living here and now. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to find, you know, the best in everything that I'm experiencing. I'm trying to be circled around people who are at my level of consciousness and vibes. Of course, usually when I'm talking about this, some
Yeah.
people are asking me, okay, but what about the other people who are living
Yeah.
differently?
Fine. You cannot solve
Don't you?
all world problems. You
Yeah,
cannot solve
exactly.
them
And
all.
exactly. So this is the thing. I'm trying to solve my personal, you know, issues,
Yeah.
my personal problems that I have,
And the
and
people around you, and try to
the
make them.
people around.
Yeah.
So because we're not living only for ourselves here, we're living in a social, like in a social.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite vital to be more positive, to see like
Yeah.
the reality behind the news that are broadcasting to
Absolutely.
us, to find the right people, and to enjoy ourselves. That's for sure.
Absolutely. What you said is so inspiring, because that's we were talking a bit earlier in the conversation about asking the right question, right?
Yeah.
So the right question would be, did you know in January, or even, okay, let's say everybody knew since November, because okay, did you know last year at the same period of now that this was going to happen to the world? No.
Mm.
Okay, so how can you forecast what's going to happen in a year, right? And so
Exactly.
in that sense, did it stop you last year from achieving all the things you wanted to achieve, and try to do your best, and try to survive, and to go to and try to produce, right? So I guess the advice to give to people, and maybe we can end on this and you can share some thoughts on it, is listen, wake up, try to make the day better than what it was yesterday, and try to serve as much as you can your own purpose on this planet and the purpose of the people around you, and make an impact on as much as small as it is. I mean, if you're taking care of 3 people, then you're taking care of 3 people, and some people are taking care of 1,000,000 people, and some people are taking care just of themselves. And that's fine. And just wake up and try to make today better than what it was yesterday, and let's see what happens in a year.
Yeah, I have to agree with every word that you just said. This is what I wanted to pass over, but I'm gonna add just that it's really beautiful because at the end of the day, it's not only about developing myself or
Yeah,
yourself.
of course, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's really beautiful what we are doing right now with you, let's say,
Yeah,
because we're exchanging
absolutely.
our, yeah, and we're passing forward,
Yeah,
paid forwards, all right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So I think like
It's a challenge. It's the challenge that I give people. I'm doing this also to inspire people. Listen, look at your phone, look at your LinkedIn, look at your Facebook, and call 5 people that you haven't spoke to in 6 months.
yeah, it's simple. How simple is that? Huh?
You know, call 5 people you haven't spoke to in 6 months and say, hey, what's happening?
And I have to say the impact that we're doing on ourselves as a human being, developing human being,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the same impact that you're gonna give to the other people
Absolutely.
around you.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, if I don't have anything to give to myself, what I'm gonna do to the other people?
Yeah.
So it's really important to feel all this, you know, essence that we have. These bodies are not just bodies. We
Yeah.
have consciousness and other stuff. It's really important to work on them, and then we could work with
Absolutely.
other people and create together.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. So good. I think we'll finish on this, and then it was good to have you on here. What would be the one word that you would tell everybody on this? Like, what is, if you have one thing to say everybody to do, or not like a piece of advice for everybody, what would you give?
Question yourself, question the environment that you're in, and unite with your like-minded people.
So question yourself, question your environment, and unite with people. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna end the recording on this one.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh, you're most welcome. It was a pleasure.